Hi team, welcome to 10 Talks. So we are excited today to be exploring how women win, and Kathy and I are on this journey. We want you to be on the journey with us. We don't have the answers. We're certainly curious how women win our way. And so we're writing a book and we have developed an outline, and most importantly, we want to start to figure out the how. How do we come about winning as women our way in a way that we honor who we are and we really honor our competitive spirit, our desire to be leaders, our desires to be head of organizations or head coaches, and how do we be for each other in this journey so that we're really raising everybody up on our journey rather than feeling like it's me or somebody else. How can we really connect that and? So Kathy, thank you for joining us in the conversation. You and I are teamed up to write this book and to have these conversations. So today we want to talk about really to our head coaches that are coaching in college sports. The world is very different. It's changing by the hour from the gift of COVID, and our young athletes, our women athletes, they're gaining a voice. They're really stepping into understanding what they need, and they're asking for it. It's fantastic that we're stepping into just this place of great strength and great honesty. You and I are committed to really stepping into and coaching people up on how to be their best self, how to really go at this with knowledge and understanding. So I know that you were a college coach. You coached volleyball for many years, and you can tell us a bit about that experience. Then you ended up writing your book, which is Gender in Competition, How Men and Women Approach Work and Play Differently. And that was in 2004. And so we're going from 2004 to today. And you've been in the administrative role from college coaching to administrative role, yet you've been studying this and researching, like living in it from a field research perspective. It's near and dear to you. You're incredibly curious about it. I'm curious about what would you recommend to coaches now based on what you learned from all of your research so that we can really elevate and move forward at a higher level? Small question, I know.
The world of coaching has changed in a very profound way, and especially at the college level. I mean, now that we're next year, Carlette, can you believe it? It's the 50th anniversary of the passage of Title IX, and the changes that have happened, not only in opportunities for girls, but also in opportunities for coaches to make a living coaching women's sports, coaching women's golf, coaching women's volleyball, coaching women's tennis, track and field. In fact, multiple jobs at one university that are full-time, benefits-bearing positions, at some places paying huge salaries.
Can we just stop and celebrate that for a moment? I mean, it's phenomenal. That's another thing. Women, we're not always great at celebrating. We're kind of like grinding and it's like, can we just celebrate the journey that so many women have gone on before us and just done amazing work at? And I just love the celebration component.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I got in 1980, wow. When I got in 1980, I got my first head coaching job at Ferris State University for one reason. I had played volleyball at Michigan State on the junior national team, period. Okay. I have a degree in humanities, so I didn't even have a degree in exercise physiology or, much less, I'd never taken a coaching class in my life, but I had been a competitive athlete. Boom, good enough. Here you are, you're the coach. Okay. There's no way that happens today. So I look at things today compared to where I was and what I had, all the things that I had to learn. And the good news for athletes today is you don't have to have all this on-the-job training that my athletes had to endure. So I succeeded in coaching in spite of myself more than because of myself. And so the number one thing that I look at now, if I were a young coach going into whether it's golf or tennis or volleyball or basketball or whatever is develop your coaching eye. And what I mean by that is you can't teach what you don't know. Okay. And what happens to us if we don't know how to train something? Then we may show it if we're a right-brained learner. Hey, how do I hit the ball down the line? Oh, toss me a ball. Boom, like that. You got it? It's like, well, no, what did you do? Oh, yeah. Toss me another one. Yeah. Boom, you got it? It's like, well, how did you do that? It's like, what are you, an idiot? Okay, give me one more try. 1, 2, 3, like that. All right? Because that was how I learned, was seeing and mimicking. I coached athletes that didn't learn that way at all. They were left brain. They were analytical. They wanted to know, where was your hand? Where did it finish?
Why do I do it that way?
Yeah. How do you contact the ball like that? Why is this important that I do this particular way? And so learning how to teach the fundamentals of the sport that you're in is the most important thing. If you are a young coach and you're aspiring to be a great coach, learn the trade, learn how to teach technique. Develop your coaching eye by reading everything, studying everything, going to every clinic you can go to, talking to other coaches. Hey, how do you teach swing blocking? I'm not sure. When do they close? When do they turn? How do you keep them from doing this? Whatever it is, develop your coaching eye, because that's going to be critical to your credibility. Can you make a player better? The second thing that I would do now that was different from what I did is I would realize that my own emotional intelligence was going to be a key to my success. Okay. That never occurred to me until I went to a clinic after I'd been coaching about 10 years. And this is going to bring in both of these two first principles. And it was Mary Jo Pepler who was doing the clinic, who was a great volleyball player and early in the 60s and 70s, just one of the best women athletes to ever play volleyball or any sport. She won the Superstars competition and an unbelievable athlete.
The list goes on and on.
Yeah. And she said in the clinic, the only reason a coach gets angry is because they don't know how to fix the problem that their team is having. If you knew how to fix it, why wouldn't you tell them instead of just throwing a fit and getting mad? And I was listening to this and I thought, oh my God, she's just indicted my entire coaching career. But it's so true. We as coaches, when our team or our players are messing up and we don't know how to fix it, get angry. Why? We practice this. How could you get this wrong? We spent an hour on this yesterday. I've told you this 100,000 times. Whatever it is. So we internalize that when things are going wrong on the court or on the field, that we are being personally humiliated by the performance of our team. And so getting the emotional intelligence to decouple who I am as a person and a human being and the fact that my team missed 25 serves is critically important to becoming a good coach, because our job is to sit back from the mess, and every sport turns in at some point during a contest into a mess. And to sit back from that in an analytical way and think about, have the emotional intelligence to say, what does my team need now? What does my setter need now? What does my point guard need now that can help us get out of this mess? It doesn't have anything to do with me, other than I'm the person that's supposed to get us out of this mess. So that would be number 2. Immediately start working on emotional intelligence. What are your triggers? The third thing that I think is critical for coaches today is to understand that there are different learning styles, that your athletes are not all wired the same way. They are all women or all girls, but they're not the same. Some of them are going to be very analytical learners. Some of them are going to be very audio, they need you to talk to them. Others are going to be visual learners. They need to see it before they can do it. Some of them are going to be extroverts who are just here to be part of this team. And I just want to have fun with my friends. And will you stop just talking about all this statistical stuff? Other kids are going to be completely lost if you don't tell them from a statistical standpoint what you want of them. Some of them are going to be very quiet and they're on the team, but they don't want to be in a lead role. They're not going to be vocal. They'll come into the huddle, but, do you have to touch me every time? Other kids are going to be real competitive and come into the huddle and just have a tortured look on their face and scream as to, we have to get this. It has to happen now. What are you doing? And so understanding all of those different styles and ways of relating and then managing that melting pot. So I think those 3 things: 1, learn your craft; 2, learn yourself; 3, learn who they are.
So Kathy, fabulous, by the way, if we just do those 3 and we talk about it. So I want to talk about the how, because you said it beautifully. I don't know any coach that wouldn't be like, yes, that's exactly what I'm working on. I want to talk about, as women, how do we keep ourselves from being good at that? And how do we also help ourselves be good at it? Because I think about the power of sharing. You talked about learning your craft, talk to other people. How are they doing it? Well, the first thing women can do is be like, well, I don't want anyone to think I don't know how. Or what if I tell somebody, then, they're really close to somebody else. And all of a sudden we feel like we are very vulnerable rather than gaining strength and knowledge of our craft. So what have you discovered in your journey that really sets women up for success to be different?
Well, I mean, certainly the support network of other women, I think, is critical, but not just other women. It can be men too. Is how do coaches learn how to coach? Most of the time it is going and maybe looking at a webinar or going to a session or reading something and then taking it into the field and talking to other people about it. And so building a network of people that you can trust. Now, as coaches, we have to be a little careful about this. When I was at the University of Kentucky, my assistant coach for 4 years was Mary Wise. Then she got the University of Florida job. We were very close. I mean, we were just good. We were buddies. We ran together. I mean, our families ate at each other. They were great cooks, and my husband and I are great eaters. And so we were always open for meals together. I mean, we were just together all the time besides working together. And all of a sudden now I'm recruiting to the University of Kentucky and she's recruiting to the University of Florida. And oh, by the way, we're recruiting some of the same kids. And so the biggest thing that I lost when I lost her as an assistant coach wasn't her skills as an assistant coach, but I lost her as a friend, as the close friend that I had.
Yeah.
Okay. But so that word of caution here, you can't form your network with all people in your own conference.
Right.
Assistant coaches, by the way, are much better at this than head coaches. If you see them at recruiting events, and they'll tell you, they'll all sit in the stands together, opponents or competitors or whatever and stuff. And they're just, yep. They're just talking, telling each other everything, learning about coaching and everything else, but they're not sitting in the head chair yet.
That's right.
When they sit in the head chair, that changes all of a sudden. But so build your network of trustworthy people and talk to them. And so it's easy to say, well, don't worry how somebody thinks about you, but we all do.
Right,
and young coaches, I think, particularly in a mentor-mentee situation, don't want to show anybody that they don't exactly know what's going on. And yet that vulnerability is very important to building a trusting relationship. And frankly, Carlette, I think women do it a lot better than men do, is let their guard down and go, okay, I need some help. Help me.
So tell me who should be on a support team for a woman, because a head coach that's a woman, because you bring up, I mean, we take our friendships very seriously, and that's a great loss when you lose your best. I mean, that because we thrive on our relationships. And so, those dear friends that we do everything together, we're for their success. I'm sure you were, somewhat happy that she got a head coaching job, right? You're for that. It's just, this is hard. This is not, I mean, this all sounds great, but again, you and I are committed to the reality of living and, having this life about winning and from our definitions. And so what's a combination, or kind of tell me just what you envision as that great support system for women?
Well, sometimes it really helps. I mean, kids, so I'm going to say things that might be contradictory here, but I think sometimes having somebody who's outside of the sport. Yeah. Okay. So an advisor, whether it's a professional coach that you have, an executive coach, but somebody who's outside of the circle and outside of the sport. Now, you're not talking about X's and O's here. Now, again, when you're talking about X's and O's,
well, we're putting the whole team together. So based on your three recommendations, right?
I mean, some people who are outside, some people that are that you're close enough, or a person that you're close enough to that they can tell you when you're out of line and you can hear it. For some people, that's their spouse. For other people, it's not anywhere near their spouse. But who keeps you grounded? I remember when I was working at the University of Kentucky, and Rick Pitino left our institution to go be the coach at Boston for the Boston Celtics. And CM Newton was looking for a new coach at the University of Kentucky, and he knew how much pressure there was going to be on that head coaching job. And Tubby Smith was on his short list. And I said, why? And he was at Georgia. He'd been successful. He was a successful coach. But I said, why is, what do you like there? And he said, he has a really solid family. Donna, his wife, is just as good as they come, and their relationship is sound and solid. And he knew that to go through the pressure of the criticism of being the University of Kentucky basketball coach, you were going to need that. And so, so again, it can be your spouse or not your spouse, but somebody who's outside that can tell you, hey, Kathy, I'm sorry, but you are way out of line right now, or how you manage that. I don't agree with how you manage that. I think you need to take another look at how you dealt with that situation. So, but can say it from a position where they love you.
Yeah, they're for you.
Yeah, they're for you. They're for you for one reason or another. They're not trying to undermine you. So I think building those kind of Sue Enquist, who's was a great softball coach at UCLA, and then who has continued to work with coaching, called it her executive committee, I believe, but it was her team of people call it her board of directors. So put some people around you that can buck you up, that can be straightforward and honest with you. And then also some ones that you can talk shop with.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's really all coaches want to do, is look at the film and talk shop.
Yeah. So in terms of that, where do you find those people? So going to clinics, going to workshops, going to things, but again, you feel like you're in somewhat competition. with those same people. So how, because it's a small world. So even if you're not in the Pac-12 right now, you could be in 15 minutes. So, if you think that you've kind of reached out and you've got somebody in the SEC and somebody in the Pac-12, that's going to collide at some point. So how do women do that in a way that's really honoring of their nervousness of being vulnerable, and yet honoring the fact that they want to be great at their craft?
Yeah, that's a great question. Is again, you may need to look, if you're already in the SEC and you're already an elite level coach. Now, probably what you're looking for is not so much X's and O's conversation, but professional, executive, life coaching types of things. Now it becomes more, you've developed your coaching eye, not that it stops, but you've developed your coaching eye. And now it's more about, how do I manage situations, either within my staff, with my staff, or, with different players on my team. So that would be one place. The other place is international. So our national teams, and I think they are this in most sports, I know our national team coaches are very open about sharing what they're doing. And you're not competing with people for their gym time. You can go sit in their gym if you really want to talk about the high level of where we're going. Can you work on one of their teams as an assistant coach? On one of the national teams? Can you take a team to another country where you can interact with other coaches you're not recruiting against? Again, this would be the high level X's and O's type of professional development.
So, Kathy, I want to talk about two components. I want to talk about hiring our assistant coaches and our staff, managing that, and then really managing our team. So we've got to the coaching level. You've given us the 3 keys to really develop ourself, our craft, ourself, and our team. How do we start to find the best combination for assistant coaches and managing them, and that, that combination, that sweetness that comes together?
Yeah. I think early in our careers, and again, we do this almost blindly, we're blind to the fact that we're more attracted to people who are like us.
Right.
And so we go and work a camp with somebody, and it's, we just really connected. Every night we went out and drank a few beers with this person. You loved them and everything. You become a head coach. It's, hey, would you come be my assistant coach? And I'm not saying that can't work, okay? Because as you're in your first head coaching job, you may want somebody that is comfortable, if you will. All right. But as you mature in your craft as a coach, you will realize that hiring into what you're not is going to be a better formula for success for your team. But this is difficult. And I can say this as a 66-year-old who has 10 employees. I have hired intentionally into some of my weaknesses, and there's times they want to kill me, and there's times I want to kill them. All right. Is we have our defaults, and when we get stressed or whatever, you're gonna fight with that person. And so, because they're not coming at it from the same place that you're coming at it. My assistant executive director is a DC on the disc, all right? He's an analytical guy, left brain, planner, process person. I'm not any of that, all right? I have enough D that I want to be in charge, all right? But I'm an I. I'm a big picture. What are we going to do? This is going to be great. You won't believe how good this is going to be. I would go to him with an idea. Hey, I've got this great idea. And he would say, well, what do you think it's going to cost? And I would go, I don't know. But I'll tell you why this is just a world-changing idea for the ABCA here. And he would say, well, how long do you think it's going to take? I would go, It'll take a while, but here, let me again explore for you why the creativity in this is just off the charts. And he would say, well, how much staff time do you think it's going to take and who's going to do it? And about at that point, I would go, why are you so negative? What is it? And he would be shocked and go, well, negative? I'm not negative. Well, okay, so now we don't have those kind of conversations anymore because we took the time to learn how we think differently. And so now the conversation is, I have an idea that I don't even know if it's a good idea, and I don't know how we're going to do it. Can you help me?
I love the can you help me, right? I mean, yeah, can we work on it together? Yeah.
The process people do their things, and the compliant people, the people who are very much analyticals, they get to bring to the table the reasons that this may not be a good idea because it's going to cost this much, it's going to take this much time, or is it on mission? Those questions. But again, with your staff, you have to build a relationship of trust, but your team will be better and your output will be better if you hire people who are different from you. Then you may have to sit apart from each other on the bench. Okay, because you're going to react to things differently. But I think those are strengths that coaches learn as they mature into their craft. Don't just get 3 of the same. 3 high eyes. You're going to have a ball. You're going to have lots of fun and everything else, but the bus may not be there when you get off the plane, and the meal's not going to be right. And, and when the kids are collapsing, you may not notice it because you're too busy having fun over here. Yeah. And that's probably overstated, but you don't want to square and cube who you are. That's not the best way to put a staff together.
So Kathy, as women, it's important to us that we be successful, and especially when we're taking risk. And as a head coach, you're always taking risk. I mean, every season is a risk. How's this going to work out? So we are in a place of risk management constantly, and yet there's no real practice zone for it. It's not like we get years and years of practice to get really good at it. And as women, we can be, I don't want to use the word vulnerable, but just, just nervous about it, or want to be liked and want to make sure that this goes well and make sure that everybody's really happy. And, we have this desire to just make it right for everybody. And yet we can take our eyes somewhat off the ball trying to do that and actually lose sight of our job and what we're hired to do. So what have you discovered in the process of your field research and the learning about just honoring us as women, how we do exactly what you're telling us to do?
Yeah. There was a book written a bunch of years ago that was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I don't remember much of what the book said, but I've never forgotten the title. And for folks who have studied the growth mindset, is all along those types of things. Is when you think, oh, I don't know if I can do this, lean into and be okay with the fact that you're uncomfortable and that you're fearful. Another quick story. I was had the coach at Washington, Keegan Cook, recommended by several of his colleagues in the Pac-12 as somebody who would be an excellent president of the AVCA. And so as we were taking people who were interested and looking for people that were interested, I called him and I said, Keegan, 2 of your colleagues have recommended that I make this call to see if you would be interested in running for president of the AVCA. And he said, that scares me to death. And then he said, yes.
Love it.
And I said, okay, I have to say that wasn't the two combinations. And he said, well, I'm really trying to lean into things that I'm uncomfortable with because I know those are going to be opportunities for me to learn. And so I really have no idea what I just said yes to, but I'm willing to try it. And, you know, yeah, it's a great example of how do we get better. And the other thing I would say to us as coaches, it's what we're asking our athletes to do every day.
Just what I was thinking. I was just thinking every day we tell our athletes, trust the process. We've got to do this. And, you know.
That's right. That's right. Every day we ask them, it's like, as you have pointed out, they were the best players from the time they were 8. Okay. They have ingrained habits of doing things, of reacting to things. And now we're asking them to change. We're asking them to change something about their arm swing or something about their approach or something about their backswing. We're asking them to play maybe in a different role than they played in before. And this is fear-inducing, uncomfortable. Am I, I don't think I'll ever be good at this. I've always done this. How do we get them to lean in?
Am I going to embarrass myself? I mean, that's huge too. Just, social media is there. I mean, there's a lot.
I've been a great player now in practice. I hit 40% of balls out of bounds, and you've got that camera. You're always tracking on it. You got that guy on data volley or gal on data volley who's always tracking it. You know, every time that I hit another ball down the line out of bounds because I did, wow, all of this feedback is negative. But again, here is how well do we know ourselves that we can now provide the reinforcement to that athlete that the mistakes are okay. The mistakes are part of the process. The mistakes are how we learn, and that getting through the mistakes, eventually we will get better. So modeling it is huge for them. If we won't do it, then it's pretty unrealistic that they'll do it.
Well, and back to your second recommendation about that self-awareness, how am I handling my failures? Am I yelling and screaming and mad and blaming people? Am I, the same is happening with our athletes because they're feeling somewhat out of control or wishing they didn't feel that way. It's exactly what we experience. So really coming in from, compassion, grace, learning, knowledge, just diving into or leaning into that really uncomfortable feeling.
And actually maybe even picking things that we're not good at. Trying to learn a new sport. Right. I mean, I always say when you're teaching beginners how to serve and you're frustrated because they're not getting it, serve with your non-dominant hand. Yeah. If you would like to know how this feels and you're right-handed, well, practice serving with your left hand so that you can get back into where they are physically. Yeah. Find something, intentionally put yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable, whether it's learning a new computer program. I sing in a choir, and when COVID shut us all down, we had to record ourselves singing, in a quiet place, singing our part by ourselves. It was the most awful experience of my life to listen to myself sing by myself into a microphone, and yet the choir director had all the gizmos and everything. So once he put it all together, it was beautiful. And so the next time it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't that. And the next time it was, oh, well, maybe we're getting better at this. And it was amazing to see this group of cringe-worthy voices gain confidence that we could do this. So yeah, it can be all kinds of different things, but practice being uncomfortable and learning new things.
That is beautiful. So team, you've got plenty to work on this week. And Kathy, thank you so much for your words of wisdom. And I know this is both you and I stretching ourselves, writing another book and going for answers that we don't know. We know the questions, but we have no idea what the answers are. We're putting ourselves out there. We're really that live it to give it model. We are for women. We're for our world. We're for just how do we do this different in a way that is really serving and supporting everyone becoming their best. So, team, it's up to you. Go out this week and practice, 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 practice getting uncomfortable, practice trying something new, practicing being for people. Think about who you want on your support team, who can really help you be the person that you want to be and you can trust. And Kathy and I will continue this journey. If you'd like to get involved with us to help us figure out the answers, go to howwomenwin.com or get a hold of us. And we'd love to hear part of your answers or winning strategies, whatever's working for you. So thank you, Kathy, for being on this journey. It is a true treat and blessing to have these conversations with you.
Thank you.